You don't need the news. The news is an endless cycle of the worst events that happen on a day to day basis. One thought that I've had in the past was that the news was necessary. It was necessary to keep up with the news because that's just what you do as a responsible adult. I used to say that it's important to keep up with everyday events and politics around the world and all the commotion of the economy and job market. These are all things that we're taught to pay attention to. We're taught that they're important. And I thought this was true for the longest time. I was watching the news daily. I was getting it from political YouTubers, was seeing it come across TV screens in the cafeteria at school, and even just online in my Instagram feed. But the unfortunate thing is that throughout me watching all of these world events, I was enormously stressed out. And weirdly enough, I almost felt powerless in my own life. I felt like my life was in the hands of the world and everything seemed to be falling apart. Especially being Gen Z, I already feel like the world is falling apart. And now combine that with the fact that I'm constantly being shoved more doom and gloom down my throat every single day. Wars are constantly going on, politics at home is in disarray constantly, and it always seems like the politicians never quite seem to have American interest at heart. There's always an ulterior motive. It wasn't until very recently that I decided to stop my consumption of politics and news, and even of streamers that constantly push this dimmer mindset or just putting bad energy into the world. The thing that made me stop was that I started to find myself craving this type of content in the background while I was at work. And I remember that as I would listen to these things, these perspectives that made things seem worse than they actually were, I started to get physically stressed. My body started to be anxious, and I could feel it. At the same time, I remember watching a video on YouTube that was talking about something completely different. He was talking about how to be an effective person, you need to amplify your signal to noise ratio. To elaborate, you want your signal to be much greater than the noise. And for me, the signal has always been things like my career, my overall health, and my social connections with friends and family. And when I look at those things, nowhere in there do I see room for negative energy that comes from keeping up with the times and watching the news every day. There are so many things that we can control in our lives, but on an individual level, there's nothing significant that I care to do or really can do to affect change in every single bit of the world's matters. And because of this, whenever I consume that, it just stresses me out, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. Sometimes it feels a little weird when people ask me what I think about current events, and sometimes I do still happen to see things on Instagram or maybe even YouTube, but I don't seek out the news in the same way that I used to. I don't immerse myself in it, and I don't have it on repeat in the background when I'm already in an environment that frankly just elicits stress to begin with. So, next time you guys are watching the news and you really start to get that feeling like the world is ending and maybe everything's doomed, it may be better to just turn it off, go outside, and breathe in the fresh air and enjoy the life that you have. Because that's the life worth living, not the one in the little screen that doesn't affect you. Thank you so much for watching and have a good one. Bye.